Well, I was not going to really deal with this topic in great detail. But after I saw some of the silly comments made by some of you all out here, I said, well, no, I'm going to have to deal with this. I mean, because the ignorance is just appalling. The ignorance that I am hearing from some of you. And what's sad is that there are others out there who believe some of the nonsense that some of you are putting forward. So in part 4 of this series, I'm going to deal with a comment from my brother, Marvin Coleman. Now, I don't know where he cut and pasted this from. I don't know where he got it from. So, but whatever the source is, I hope he tells me exactly what the source is, because when he does, I'm going to go there and I'm going to intellectually decapitate that source. But I'll deal with the next best thing, and that is what Marvin has graciously posted here. And I really like his courage. I mean, to have the courage to actually post it and to challenge what I'm saying. That's good because, I like good challenges because sometimes if I have the time, I will go into detail and debunk it. Or if it's correct in certain areas, I will praise it. I will say, hey, good job, great job. But here we go, Marvin. Your first comment was number 1. You said, name who spoon-fed you the out of Africa theory. And with a question mark. Talking to me now. Who spoon-fed me that? As if I'm the babe, I'm the baby. When I'm done with you, Marvin, everybody's going to know that you the pup. Oh, he says, Darwin, like Charles Darwin. Interesting. Please answer, though. Out of Africa theory. Let's move on down through here because, in the whole context of everything, I'm going to show you that Marvin is not coming up to par. Now, Marvin, this is nothing against you or anything. I mean, y'all are trying. You're trying. I appreciate that because you got others out there sitting on their asses. They don't even try. Okay, so number 2, 65,000 years ago, the theory, oh gosh, we're going to go back 65,000 damn years. Okay. The theory is that either African people walked out of Africa or was it Homo erectus that walked out? Who cares? You tell me, were either of the two evolved enough to walk not knowing where in the hell they were going, yet not evolved enough to leave any images behind them in that land until they got to all the places you named? They then became intelligent in image making, carving things or painting things onto cave walls or whatever. Well, it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Question doesn't even fit this particular program. Number 3, disease did not wipe out the indigenous American, so-called Indians. And then he says paper genocide did. Research a man named Walter Plecker. No, research me. Research me. European diseases wiped out most of the natives of the Western Hemisphere. That's North America, Central America, South America. Wiped them out. And then he goes on to say, if Africans came from Africa into the various parts of the world, why isn't their blood A and B dominant in those places today, yet blood type O is dominant in the Americas, which is the original and universal blood factor of them all, yet dominant in the so-called African Americans. Yet African Americans in Africa are dominant blood type A and B. Marvin, nonsense. Nonsense. Who taught you that doggone lie? That's stupid. Just sheer ignorance. You think just because you type something here or you cut and paste something here that everyone is supposed to believe the nonsense? Well, okay. Now let me school you, brother. Let me school you. I told you, some of you, you're going to get an intellectual whipping right here. All right. Here we go. First of all, you stated that Africans are mainly blood type A and B. No, not true. Not true. Most of Africa, between 60 and 80% of Africans are blood type O. Blood type O, not blood type A and B. Now, let's contrast that with the natives, most of the natives of North America, Central America, South America. Up to 100% of them, they're the largest dominant group who are blood type A and B. Now, Marvin was saying that most Africans are blood type A and B. No, brother, you got it twisted. You know, you need to get your facts straight. You need to get your science right. I told you. I told you. Sometimes you all meddle a little too much. You challenge me, and if I take a notion, I'm going to lay you out. Okay. Now, let's talk about African Americans. African Americans in the United States, 51% of them are blood type O. 51%. Now, around about 45% of pale-skinned Americans are blood type O. All right? So, 51% of African Americans are blood type O. Between 60 and 80% of Africans are blood type O. So all this nonsense right here, I've just debunked what you have put forward as factual. And I've proven it to be false. Let's go on. Let's continue going on. I mean, if you can't believe him on this, then what can you believe him about? Who is the source of this lie? Where did you get this lie from? Who taught you this lie? Give me a name. Give me a phone number. Let me call he or she up. All right, I'm having a little fun here with you guys. Okay, now. So number four. Moors are Moroccan North, African Berbers, and have always traveled back and forth in trade with us and never had a problem, but somehow, with the help of their European cousins, they came no more in peace and trade. What does that have to do with this? The Moors. The Moors, they were enslaving other blacks prior to the pale-skinned Europeans enslaving blacks. And as it was written long ago in biblical texts, those who lead into captivity, in other words, those who enslave, they themselves shall be led into captivity. They shall be enslaved. Watch out, pale-skinned Americans. So, number 5, you ask if we were already here and we knew the land. No, I did not ask that. I stated that a few blacks were already here, just as blacks were the first to settle around the world. I stated that in part 1. Some of you all don't have good listening skills. You only hear what you want to hear, those things that you want to combat. You only hear that. You don't hear the rest. Because some of you, you're always looking for an area of contention. You're looking for an area where you can fuss, you can argue, you can debate. But let's talk about solutions. And we can't talk about solutions unless we know the truth. And you're going to get the truth right here on the Afrocentric News channel. So, okay, come on now. I'm going to give you your little intellectual whipping here now. All right. So he then says, why didn't you throw... Well, let me go. No. Let's move back up here. So he says, the Moors traveled back and forth in trade with us and never had a problem, but somehow with the help of the European cousins, they came no more in peace and trade. Well, hey, look, a lot of them became slaves. They were enslaved. You ask, if we were already here and we knew the land, outnumbering them, why didn't you overthrow them? Talking about if blacks were already here and outnumbered the pale-skinned people, why didn't blacks overthrow them? Yeah, I did ask that question. Why didn't you overthrow them? Now, his answer was this. Simple. It usually takes one like you, like me now. And I'm proving to you all that he is wrong about his supposed facts. And look, and disprove me. I've just proven with the whole blood type thing that he was out in left field with that nonsense. Simple. It usually takes one like you that looks similar to us to infiltrate our tribes, learning our weaknesses and our stronghold. Well, if your stronghold is lies, I got news for you. I'm tearing it down. That's right. I'm pulling it up from the root. To answer that, consider this, he states. Didn't Malcolm X, now what does a dead man, Malcolm X, God bless his soul, have to do with this? But let's go on. Didn't Malcolm X decide not to search the people at his last speech? Negroes from Africa have always worked with their oppressors. Now, there's some truth to that. After the 1492 defeat of the Moors in Spain by Caucasian Europeans, just ask the Moors who navigated for Columbus and them afterwards. No, I don't need to ask them. Okay, are you a Moor? If you are, well, hey, they should have sent someone better than you here, because I'm going you an intellectual whipping, my boy. Okay. Where are the boats? number 6. Where are the boats that brought these 100 to 200 million Africans to the shores of America? Well, here we go again. Bad facts, bad numbers. 100 to 200 million? 100 to 200 million never came to the shores of the Americas or the Caribbean islands. Never. Never. You know, between 10 and 20% of them survived. And now, the 100 to 200 million, that number is an estimate of how many were removed from the African continent. That's right. You know, with the drums, with the dance, with the rhythm, and with all that, you see it in Africa. Hell, you see it right here with the African Americans. You don't see it out there on the Apache reservation. You don't see it out there in the Cherokee lands. You don't see it out there among the Choctaw and other native tribes primarily. You don't see it there. You see it among who? Okay, now I've already debunked this whole blood type thing. And now I'm getting into the music, the rhythm, the dance. The spirit, you know, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, you got me going, brother. And a few others out there, because there was one young lady, she was your sycophant, and she was right on with you. She was praising you, but I'm destroying the untruths that you presented. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. Okay, now, why don't Africans from Africa know about their own families stolen? You ever been to Africa, my brother? I doubt it. Because many of them do. Not all of them. Not all of them. But your statement is implying all of them. That's nonsense. So he goes on to say, why don't Africans from Africa know about their own families stolen, captured, and sold into slavery to the Americas? Nonsense. Nonsense. They know about it. They don't like to talk about it because they are ashamed of it. because they know that some of their ancestors also participated for various reasons. Sometimes family members of chiefs were taken as hostages. And until you deliver a certain number or a quota of other blacks for enslavement to the Europeans, your loved ones, your wife, your children would not be released as hostages. And some of them willingly participated. For the same reason some of the Negroes participate willingly for money, for trinkets, for mess, for junk. You're traitors. You betray the truth. You betray your people. How am I doing, my brother? But be of good courage now. I like I said, I admire you for your courage. You know, not many people are going to challenge much of what I say. Not many. I mean, they know better. But I like a good challenge. I like that. Put it on the line. So, number 8. Why isn't it taught in their schools and family oral stories? Why isn't it taught in African schools? For the reason that I stated. They are embarrassed about it. They are ashamed of it. So it's not taught that much within their schools. Now, I guess, and I presume, could be wrong, but I presume you're asking that question because you're trying to support your false statement or your false belief that these millions and millions of Africans were not shipped from Africa to the Americas, to even Western Europe, and before that, into Saudi Arabia and other areas of the East to be enslaved. All right. Question number 9. If you cannot answer number 3, question number 3 above, you really don't know what you're talking about, and you should leave Charles Darwin's theory alone and go research more before making stupid videos without backup. Yet, I'll still crush you by debunking anything you come with, because I live to debunk Afrocentrics and Pan-Africanists! Exclamation mark! Well, my dear brother, you are getting a royal intellectual whipping. That's right, intellectual whipping. I love it when they put it on the line. Let's go back up here since he referenced number 3. Let's go back up here to number 3. Number 3 was disease. Did not, well, disease. Well, he spelled it with a C and everything. But disease did not wipe out the indigenous American so-called Indians. But I tell you, some of you just make up stuff. You make up garbage. And then what's sad about it is many of these black folks, they believe this cuckoo. Somebody said, T. West, you should stick to the politics, the political stuff. Hey, look, I'm versed in this, baby. Yeah, that's right. I'm versed in this. I told you, my dear brother Marvin Coleman, I told you, intellectual whipping is coming. But I'm not done. I'm almost done, but I'm not quite done yet. So, but about question number 3. So he loves going after the Afrocentrists and the Pan-Africanists. I never called myself an Afrocentrist. I'm a truth centrist. Now I am for Pan-Africanism. Yes, I am. I'm definitely for that. It makes good business sense. It makes good economic sense. It makes good social sense. Now, the only ones who are not mainly for that are y'all's masters. And generally, usually it's the phony Jew, the false Jew, who put many of these ideas into the heads of you all, like my dear brother Marvin. What's going on, Marvin Gaye? Tell me what's going on. Okay, now, question number 10. This is the last one. Okay. African Americans ain't African. Yokoki, Mr. T. West. Okay. African Americans ain't Africans. All right. Marvin, you have been intellectually decapitated. This is T West with Afro Synergy.
A woman of the Pemni people of northern Sierra Leone. She and her neighbors know nothing of the long years of hardship for African Americans, of slavery. In fact, only now is Kadiatu learning that many Americans are black.
So then go there, then take slave from Sierra Leone, then carry them go yonder, then born picking. So say now, then say don't turn American.
What is remarkable for us here in Sierra Leone is that these Gullah people have preserved so much language and cultural heritage from this country. Now, how did that happen?
Opala is currently a lecturer at Fura Bay College, the oldest university in sub-Saharan Africa. He now teaches the history that he and others are uncovering.
It's a long story of Chaminuka. Chaminuka's board was surviving in Persia. Do you know Persia?
Yes.
That's where most black people came from. Because these southern countries were not having people, they was just forest. The time people began to travel, they came from Persia. They was led by the voice of a bird which was flying. That bird was showing them directions to go and the rules of praying to the other.
As African American, are you African? Oh, hell no, I ain't African. You're not wrong though. They're not wrong. They're not wrong. I ain't African. You're not wrong though. They're not wrong. They're not wrong. Are they right? Because of the, but it's just the reaction. Okay, true. Now, and I could be a little sensitive because of how I go. Okay, hold up. Here's okay. This is going to answer that question. So, the history of African Americans in America does not necessarily work in their favor based on everything that was logged. As you see all the movies, 12 Years a Slave, it's a constant reminder that, hey, African Americans, this is your story in America. When I was in Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America and found out. That's true. Right? I did not know anything about slavery. When I was in Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America and found out. That's true. Right? I did not know anything about slavery.
I'm going to do missionary work. Probably be going to Africa. I'll be doing work among your people. Not mine. My people in St. Louis.
And this knowledge is came from the Lebus community. And the Lebus, they have a big culture. And they have a big tradition. And also they have a religion.
Lébu rek nga ñëw rek commencé Sénégal parce que lébu commencé wul Sénégal.
So it doesn't mean, for example, if you're talking about lébu, you cannot only start in Senegal, you know, because lébu doesn't come from Senegal.
Parce que suñu maam yi dañuy wax ne lébu mu commencé Inde.
Because his ancestors, they said lébu is came from India.
Parce que lébu yi dëkkoon nañu Inde.
Because the lébu, they used to live in India.
Suñu maam yi nee nañu lébu yi def nañu 1000 ans en Inde.
And his ancestors, they said the lébus, they live. They stay in India for 1,000 years.
Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history.
I'm not no fucking African. Number one. That's Sarnetta talking. That's Sarnetta. Yeah, this Sarnetta talking. I'm not no fucking. None of you niggas know nothing about Africa. Y'all can claim Africa all you want. Them niggas look at y'all like a piece of shit. So y'all keep on saying we African. What the fuck does that mean? Ain't no such thing as I'm African. Fuck Africa.
Yeah.
What does the word Moor means?
It means a slave. That yes.
So the word Moor means slave.
Yes, that's right.
I'm questioning the validity of the information as they have related it to be the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I say, and I will continue to say, that Taj Tariq does not teach Moorish science as taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. How your brothers doing, man? What's your name?
My name is Mustafa Akulu.
Where you from, Mustafa Akulu?
Morocco. I'm from
We was just having a conversation off camera, man, and you was explaining it to us about the Moors of Morocco. I'd like for you to elaborate a little more on that to Black News 102.
All right. As far as Moroccan history is concerned, the Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history. The Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history. The Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history. They played a great role in Moroccan history. They have been used to build important cities, important empire cities in Morocco, like Fez, Meknes, Marrakesh. All right. And then there was this kind of slave trade, and also Morocco was engaged even in the triangle, in the what is called in history the triangle slave trade, like exporting. Morocco was actually engaged in exporting slaves from Africa to America.
Now you're talking about black people. These are black Moors.
That's right. Yeah.
Bringing in African slaves. Wow.
Yeah, that's
so you said that the history of the Moors in Morocco, they were slaves. He's saying that the history of the Moors in Morocco were slaves, though. So
no, he said the Moors was bringing in African slaves.
No, I heard that part, but in the beginning you said that they were slaves and they built a lot of stuff, right?
Yes.
Who enslaved those people?
For example, I'll give you an example. As far as with my limited knowledge, of course, I've read that in Meknes, the Sultan, before it was called the Sultan.
Mulay Ismail?
The Sultan named Mulay Ismail. Yes.
Mulay Ismail.
He gathered all many slaves from sub-Saharan and the slaves in Morocco. So he gathered them and he castrated them because he had so many wives. So he was afraid that they would have because he had what we call harem. So
was he an Arab? Was Mulay Ismail Arab that enslaved the African Moors? So he was not a Moor. He was actually an Arab that invaded the country and enslaved the Moors.
Yes,
so the Moors actually in Morocco were the slaves.
Yes. Yes. The Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history. So, all right. As far as Moroccan history is concerned, we have to mention what we call Berbers. Okay. Yes, Berbers are the natives of North Africa, all the way from Canary Islands to the borders between Libya and Siwa. Okay. And North Africa has always been an intersection of different cultures, and Berbers now, if you study the Berbers as a race, they are diverse. You have white Berbers, and you have brown Berbers, and you have black Berbers. The Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history. Okay, the nomads and all that stuff. So anyway, let me just finish this. When it comes to Mulay Ismail and the building of empire cities in Morocco, so he got not all, but many slaves, and then he used them to build the city. If you go now to Meknes, you'll find great walls, okay? Long, great walls surrounded, the city is surrounded with great walls. And these walls, as far as the history is concerned, were built by the slaves that were brought in different parts of Morocco. And yes, yeah, of course.
So what you're saying is he actually came in and used the indigenous people of those lands as slaves.
Yes.
So then the question I would have to ask is, you being from Morocco, the Moors that was in Spain, were those African slaves, or was those African Moors, or were those the more mixed Moors or Arabs that went up into Spain?
Okay. As far as Spain is concerned, the Moors that were there were mixed Moors, so both black and brown, and Berbers and Arabs, so and Jews as well, because they were expelled from Spain at a certain, I guess in the, what century was that?
You say they were expelled from Spain?
Yeah, they were chased out. Yes, in the 15th century, and then but anyway, the Moroccan regimes were also engaged in this kind of slave trade and slave exercise, if you want. The Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history. So that's
right. And the reason why I was asking that on Black News 102, I just wanted to know, you being from Morocco, the indigenous African Moroccans on that continent, the Africans there, those were the ones predominantly that were enslaved by other groups coming into Morocco,
right.
And they enslaved the people. So this is a person from Morocco, this is a brother from Morocco, coming to Black News 102, saying that the so-called African Moors in Morocco were the slaves.
Yes.
They were the ones building it as slaves by other intruders coming in and taking over the country. Am I wrong or right?
Yes, that's right. The Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history.
Now let me ask you the last question.
Yeah.
What does the word Moor means?
Okay, Moor, here you cannot kind of it's a really complicated, it's a very complicated concept. It's a concept, and it is very complicated because you have Spanish Moors and you have the Moors in Morocco as well, and now the Mauritanians, okay, which are which are the people of.
Yeah, next, don't go nowhere.
Yeah,
what did you say? It means black?
It means not actually. It means a slave. It means a slave. Yes.
So the word Moor means slave.
Yes, that's right. The Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history. The Moors, we call them slaves. Slaves have always been part of Moroccan history.
I'm not no fucking African. Number one. That's Sarnetta talking. That's Sarnetta. Yeah, this Sarnetta talking. I'm not no fucking. None of you niggas know nothing about Africa. Y'all can claim Africa all you want. Them niggas look at y'all like a piece of shit. So y'all keep on saying we African. What the fuck does that mean? Ain't no such thing as I'm African. Fuck Africa.
Yeah. What does the word Moor means?
It means a slave. Yes.
So the word Moor means slave.
Yes, that's right.